Y'all, there's something truly special about sourdough bread. That tangy aroma, the satisfying crust, and the soft, chewy texture, it's pure comfort food. But did you know that sourdough has been around for centuries, dating back to ancient times? Imagine Egypt thousands of years ago. The pyramids are being built, and someone stumbles upon a mixture of flour and water that started to bubble and ferment. That, my friends, was likely the earliest form of sourdough. This happy accident quickly became a staple in ancient kitchens. It was a simple, reliable way to make bread, relying on naturally occurring wild yeasts and bacteria to work their magic. From the bustling streets of ancient Rome to the humble kitchens of medieval Europe, sourdough has journeyed through time, becoming a beloved tradition passed down through generations. It's a true testament to the enduring power of simple ingredients and time-honored techniques. Fast forward to today, and sourdough is experiencing a renaissance. With the rise of home baking and a renewed interest in traditional methods, sourdough has found its way back into our kitchens and our hearts. Artisanal bakeries are popping up everywhere, and people are sharing their sourdough creations on social media. The process of making sourdough is both an art and a science, requiring patience and a bit of know-how. But the rewards are well worth it, a delicious, nutritious bread that brings people together. So whether you're a seasoned baker or just starting out, there's never been a better time to embrace the magic of sourdough. Now let's talk about what makes sourdough so unique. It's sourdough starter. This magical mixture is the heart and soul of sourdough bread. It's a living culture of wild yeasts and bacteria that gives sourdough its signature tangy flavor and chewy texture. Think of it like a pet, but instead of cuddles, you feed it flour and water. This feeding frenzy keeps the wild yeasts and bacteria happy and active, producing those delightful sourdough characteristics we all know and love. Don't let the science scare you, it's simpler than it sounds. The wild yeasts and bacteria in sourdough starter break down the complex sugars in flour, producing lactic acid, which gives sourdough its tangy flavor. This slow fermentation process also enhances the bread's nutritional value and makes it easier to digest. So the next time you take a bite of sourdough, remember the fascinating science happening behind the scenes. It's a beautiful example of nature's wonders working their magic in our kitchens. Now let's talk about the good stuff, the taste. Sourdough bread is in a league of its own. Unlike store-bought bread, sourdough has a depth of flavor that's both tangy and complex. That signature sourdough tang comes from the lactic acid produced during fermentation. It's a delightful dance of sour and savory that awakens the taste buds. But it's not just about the tang. Sourdough also boasts a subtle sweetness and nutty undertones, creating a symphony of flavors that will have you savoring every bite. And let's not forget about the texture. Sourdough bread has a wonderfully chewy texture that's both satisfying and addictive. The slow fermentation process creates air pockets in the dough, resulting in a light and airy crumb. It's the perfect combination of crispy crust and soft, chewy interior. Trust me, once you go sourdough, you'll never go back. Not only is sourdough delicious, but it also offers some impressive health benefits. Unlike commercially produced bread, sourdough is easier to digest and gentler on your gut. The slow fermentation process breaks down gluten, making it a great option for people with gluten sensitivities, though not for those with celiac disease. Sourdough is also a good source of nutrients, including prebiotics, which nourish the good bacteria in your gut. It's a win-win. So next time you reach for a slice of bread, choose sourdough. You'll be treating yourself to a delicious and nutritious option that's good for your taste buds and your gut. It's guilt-free indulgence at its finest. The joy of baking, crafting your own sourdough masterpiece. Now that we've covered the wonders of sourdough, let's talk about the joy of baking it at home. It's a rewarding experience that connects you to a long line of bakers who have come before you. Imagine the satisfaction of transforming simple ingredients, flour, water, and salt, into a golden brown loaf of sourdough bread. It's a true labor of love, but the results are worth every minute. Baking sourdough is a sensory experience. You'll feel the dough come alive in your hands as you knead it, smell the tangy aroma of the starter, and witness the magical transformation as it rises in the oven. It's a process that slows you down, encourages patience, and connects you to the rhythm of nature. And the best part? You get to share the fruits of your labor with loved ones, creating memories that will last a lifetime. Patience is key, the art of fermentation. Now comes the most important part of sourdough baking: fermentation. This is where the magic truly happens. During fermentation, the wild yeasts and bacteria in the sourdough starter work their magic, breaking down the sugars in the flour and producing those delightful sourdough characteristics we all know and love. Fermentation takes time, so be patient. The dough will rise slowly, developing complex flavors and a light and airy texture. You'll know it's ready when it's doubled in size and has a jiggly, almost alive quality to it. It's during this waiting period that you truly appreciate the power of slow fermentation. It's a reminder that good things take time and the results are well worth the wait. The magic of wild yeast. Unveiling the magic of wild yeast. Wild yeast is the heart and soul of sourdough. These tiny organisms are responsible for the unique flavors and textures of sourdough bread. As the wild yeast ferments the dough, it creates a symphony of flavors that can't be replicated with commercial yeast. The process is slow, but the reward is a loaf of bread with a depth of flavor and a texture that's truly one of a kind. Embrace the journey of working with wild yeast and you'll be rewarded with bread that's not just food, but a work of art. A dance with dough, mixing, kneading, and shaping your loaf. Now let's get our hands dirty and start making some sourdough magic. The process of mixing, kneading, and shaping sourdough dough is a therapeutic experience. It's a chance to connect with the dough, feel its texture, and guide it into beautiful loaves. Don't be intimidated by the process. It's easier than you think. Start by mixing your sourdough starter, flour, water, and salt in a large bowl. Then, knead the dough for a few minutes to develop gluten, which gives sourdough its structure. Once the dough is smooth and elastic, it's time to let it rest and rise. After the first rise, gently shape the dough into a loaf and place it in a proving basket or bowl lined with a linen cloth. This helps the dough hold its shape and creates a beautiful pattern on the crust. It's like tucking your dough in for a cozy nap before its big bake. The grand finale, baking and enjoying your sourdough creation. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, baking. Preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, 232 degrees Celsius, and place your Dutch oven or baking stone inside to preheat as well. Carefully transfer your proofed dough to the preheated Dutch oven or baking stone. Score the top of the loaf with a sharp knife or razor blade. This helps control the rise during baking. Bake at 425 degrees with the lid on for 40 minutes. Then remove the lid and bake for an additional 10 minutes, or until the crust is a deep golden brown and the loaf sounds hollow when tapped on the bottom. Let the loaf cool completely on a wire rack before slicing and enjoying. I know it's hard to resist, but trust me, it's worth the wait. Dive into the world of sourdough and discover the joy of creating something truly special from scratch. Happy baking, y'all!